Alright, so a few weeks ago, on February 2nd, Viking-themed survival game Valheim hit Steam and has pretty much taken on the survival game world by storm. So as a result, last night, my good friend SmackinCheekz and I decided to get this game and give it a shot, just because we love survival games. Now, originally, my thought process was to do a full Moses Monocle review on this game, but Valheim is an early access, or Valheim, however you want to pronounce it. It is an early access title, so the game's in its pretty early stages of development, so I figured it would be best to do a first impressions sort of deal, because again, the game is probably going to change and be added on to as it develops. Also, the footage that I'm going to be using in this video is from yesterday's stream, which, like I said, me and SmackinCheekz bought the game and started playing it that night, so we both streamed it for around 6 hours. So if you're interested in the Twitch and stuff, link in the description as always. And yeah, let's get into the first impressions. So first and foremost, Valheim is a survival game, and a lot of things in this game will feel familiar to you if you played things like Ark, Rust, and Conan Exiles, and just other survival games that kind of live in that sphere. When you load up the game, you're tasked to create your character in a fairly simple character creator. Then you jump into a procedurally generated world, either solo or with up to 10 friends per server. In true survival game fashion, you're dropped into this world with nothing, and it's up to you to explore and gather resources in order to survive by crafting tools and weapons, building a base, farming, and all the typical survival game stuff. Now, all of these things so far are not new. Valheim obviously is not the first game to do those things, so let's talk about what makes this game different and unique. Like I said earlier, at the start you're dropped into the world with nothing, but unlike other survival games, you're actually given a purpose right at the beginning, which that purpose in short is to hunt down and defeat Odin's ancient rivals. Now, this ties back to the actual lore of your character, which essentially is that you're a dead Viking warrior that is dropped off by the Valkyries on the 9th world of Valheim, which essentially, at least the way that it reads to me, is kind of like purgatory. Now, I probably butchered a little bit of the lore, and that's really oversimplifying it, but that was just my interpretation of it while I was playing. And you can get really deep into the Norse mythology ties into it and the whole Viking thing, but in short, you're put on this island to hunt Odin's ancient rivals, and that's your sort of main overarching goal. Now, these ancient rivals are bosses that can be summoned through making sacrifices at shrines you can find throughout the map, and to my knowledge, there are currently 5 bosses in the game, and obviously you need to gear up and progress through the game in order to be ready to take on these bosses. And the way that the progression works in this game is another part that I'm actually a really big fan of. Your typical crafting and resource progression is here, where you'll gradually, learn how to craft better items, as well as just upgrading the individual items that you have themselves. But the progression that I find really unique and enjoyable is how your actual character levels up, in a sense. So in Valheim, there are no skill points you get by leveling up, and there actually is no character level itself. Instead, each individual attribute of your character levels up independently. So, for example, the more you use an axe to cut down trees, the more efficient you become in cutting down trees and using axes. The more you swim, the better your character becomes at swimming. The more you sprint around, the better you become at running, and so on and so forth. Every little thing has its own sort of level system. And I really enjoy the system because it encourages players to use a variety of different weapons and to continually explore in different areas and ways, because it means you're going to be leveling up those different attributes. And a lot of these skills that I'm talking about pertain to combat, and the combat in this game, while it is very simple, I find it very enjoyable. You have 2 attack buttons, being left click, which is for attacking with whatever you're holding, or if you're not holding anything, just your fists. Middle click, which does a big Spartan style kick, and then right click acts as a block button, and you can also dodge roll by holding block and then pressing space in whatever direction you're facing. You can also craft ranged weapons like the bow and arrow, which, that's pretty self-explanatory. It's a ranged weapon. Again, the combat is very simple and easy to grasp, but it's enjoyable nonetheless, considering the variation in enemies and animals to hunt while you explore the world. Enemies can range from just smaller little creatures all the way to these massive trolls, and then of course the big bosses that you have to find. And I still haven't even explored the majority of the map, so there's probably still tons of creatures and things that I haven't seen. One last thing to touch on is the graphics. Now, personally, I really enjoy the old school low poly art style of this game, especially since it's mixed in with like modern day lighting systems and environmental effects. I think it makes a very unique looking game that has a lot of personality, but I could see how some people just aren't fans of the sort of low poly style, but it is intentional, so that's not like a knock on the game that it's low poly. That's just part of the styling that the developers are going for, so to each their own sort of deal. So I know this is really short, but again, this is just first impressions, and I'm going to be playing the game a whole lot more, and this is just an early access title. So to wrap it up, if you couldn't already tell, I really enjoy this game, and even in its early access state, there's a surprising amount of content here to explore, and a just level of uniqueness and polish that you don't typically see from games in this genre. So I'm definitely, like I said, going to be playing a ton more of it, and I want to keep up with it as the updates roll out for it and as it's supported until the eventual full release of the title, and then I'm hoping at least it'll still be supported and whatnot even after its release. So I hope you guys enjoyed this video. If you did, like and subscribe and leave a comment telling me what you think of this game, whether you've played it or just watched content on it. Also, like I said, Twitch in the description, because pretty much whenever I play this game I do want to stream it. So if you're interested in seeing all that live, go ahead and check that out. And yeah, see you guys in the next one.